Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. Got more of your questions regarding the 2016 WWE brand split, as well as other topics. Let's get started today with the first one, which comes from Evan King. Hey Aaron, with the rumor of 2 world titles for the brand split, is WWE acknowledging that Roman isn't over as the top guy? I really feel that having a second world title has nothing to do with Roman Reigns not being over as the top guy. I fully expect Roman Reigns to continue being the new flagship of WWE, and I would expect him to remain on Raw as the #1 guy in the company overall, with John Cena being on Smackdown to help elevate that brand and make it a must-watch brand. I think that having a separate world title is being done, and this isn't official yet, this is what is being strongly rumored at this point, but if there is a second world title, I think it's because WWE wants to have a world title when Smackdown goes to different cities for live events. WWE wants to have a world title match on those shows, and that's why they have a second world title rather than having Roman Reigns work all those shows, because SmackDown is currently scheduled to have their own live events on, I believe, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then of course Tuesday for the live SmackDown. There's no way Roman Reigns can go 5-6 nights in a row doing WWE house show matches and not getting completely burned out or injured. That's the logic in adding a second world title, not that Roman Reigns isn't over enough to be the one world champion representing both shows. This one comes from David Anderson. With the brand split returning, which main event superstars, if any, do you see going to SmackDown? Well, I just mentioned John Cena because WWE is going to want a top-level WWE star to carry the SmackDown brand, and John Cena would be perfect for that role. I could also see more of the internet favorites going to SmackDown as a way to get more internet fans behind SmackDown and promoting SmackDown and spreading the word about SmackDown. I could see guys like AJ Styles and Sami Zayn and even the New Day going to SmackDown, some of the more popular acts in the company, maybe even Cesaro as well. I could see those guys going to SmackDown. I think SmackDown will definitely, at least in the short term, get the big treatment, the main event treatment, with the top level stars going on to SmackDown and some of the more favorite underrated stars going to SmackDown as well. Got this one here from Andy Cruz. Now with SmackDown going to Tuesdays, do you think TNA will attempt to compete? The beginning of a Tuesday night war? There's no way for TNA to compete. How can they compete? TNA does not have the financial resources to compete against WWE. So even if TNA wanted to compete, who are they going to sign? All the released WWE stars? Ryback? Adam Rose? Cody Rhodes? There's really nothing TNA can do at this point except just try to focus on producing quality television shows, but it's not going to really matter one way or another. There's not much TNA can do at this point. TNA is at the mercy of Pop TV and at the mercy of WWE. TNA is just doing whatever they can do as an organization to merely survive at this point. There's not going to be any kind of competition. TNA will just be there as a show, and if they're lucky, WWE will not take away too many viewers. Maybe WWE being on Tuesday nights will get more people in general watching wrestling on Tuesday nights, and maybe that'll help TNA. But that's the best they can hope for at this point. Got this one here from Andrew. Can you see WWE doing John Cena versus Undertaker at SummerSlam so the concern for injury is less for Cena? I would say it's always a possibility that Undertaker comes back for SummerSlam this year. He did appear at last year's SummerSlam. I think that it's more likely WWE saves that match for WrestleMania if they're going to do it at all. That's really one of the biggest matches WWE could do, and it would make more sense to have that match at next year's WrestleMania, especially if it's going to be Undertaker's send-off match. You do not want to end Undertaker's career with a match that isn't really as big as the previous match he had. If Undertaker and Cena is done at SummerSlam, there's really no way to top that at WrestleMania 33. You might as well have Undertaker go out on the biggest note possible with the biggest match, the biggest opponent on the biggest stage, and that's WrestleMania. So if it does happen, I think it's more likely to happen at WrestleMania 33. Got this one here from Mr. Yuck. Can a Cruiserweight champion boost the brand split? Make them exclusive to SmackDown? Would 2 World Heavyweight Championships be overkill and not new era material? I've seen a lot of talk about the Cruiserweight division possibly being brought back. WWE is doing this Cruiserweight series. I think it's unlikely though, because the Cruiserweight division is appealing to a very specific audience. Your older hardcore fans that grew up on the Cruiserweights in WCW and even in WWE later on. The problem with doing a full-fledged Cruiserweight division on the main roster is that it's going to create a glass ceiling for a lot of those competitors. They will be labeled as Cruiserweights, and it will be hard for them to move up the ladder in WWE. It creates a stigma. If you have guys like Neville that are just seen as Cruiserweights, it's hard for them to be taken seriously as potential main event superstars. Same thing with guys like Sami Zayn and some of the other smaller guys in WWE. Anyone like Sami Zayn or Neville can go for the WWE title, but if they're labeled as Cruiserweights, then it's really hard for them to rise above that and be taken more seriously in a heavyweight championship situation. So I think it's unlikely WWE brings back the Cruiserweight division on the main roster, but with this new brand split, never say never. Got this one here from the Flying Welchman. Do you think Cody Rhodes could have been World Heavyweight Champion? I think you meant he, should have won the Royal Rumble in 2012 and beat Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 28. Your thoughts? No. I do not think Cody Rhodes had everything, the entire package, to be WWE World Champion. I think he was a very good wrestler, good promo. He had an interesting gimmick when he was doing Dashy Cody Rhodes, and then when he became disfigured with the mask or whatever. I thought that was a good angle for him, but I never really saw him as a main event superstar. I felt that he was overall very good, but there's just something he was missing, maybe not quite charismatic enough, or maybe just not big enough. I'm not really sure. There's something I felt he was missing for him to be a world champion superstar, and I think that if he had won the world title, it would have been the Jack Swagger effect, where WWE would not have pushed him very strongly, and it would have just lowered the title and made it less prestigious. That's just my take on it. I felt that as good as he wasn't quite there at that level to be a world champion. This one comes from Steven East. Please answer in video. Just wondered why WWE concentrate on a select few rather than trying to push as much of the roster as possible. This does tie into the Cody Rhodes question a little bit. Not everybody can be world champion. I think that some people out there have this idea that everyone can get pushed, but that's just not the case. You have to have your main eventers, your mid-carders, your lower card guys. You need to have a balance on the roster, and not everyone can be pushed at the same time. And really, you shouldn't push every single person you have on the roster. I think it is important for everyone to have a storyline, even the guys on the lower card, and that was one thing that Vince Russo had going for him. He was always trying to come up with storylines for everybody from the top of the card to the bottom of the card. But you cannot push everybody, and WWE needs main eventers. You need guys to carry the company, that can represent the company, do media appearances, and appear on video game covers, somebody who is recognizable with the mainstream public. You need those type of larger-than-life superstars. And that's what WWE's trying to do with Roman Reigns. And to Roman Reigns' credit, he looks like a superhero. He has the right look that WWE wants. And he looks good in a video game with his look and his character. He just doesn't really have the charisma of past WWE main event stars like The Rock or Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan or even John Cena. And that's the biggest problem with Roman Reigns, is he just doesn't have the charisma that some of those past guys have had. And I think that that's led to a lot of the backlash for Roman Reigns and just WWE seeing him as a carbon copy of John Cena. Got this one here from Andrew Barry. When do you think Bayley will make it to the main roster? Are the fans getting robbed of Sasha Banks getting the title now? Please answer in video. I think WWE wants to keep Bayley in NXT because she's very popular with the NXT fan base and they have a good thing going with her right now. And in the main roster division, WWE's focusing on Charlotte and her opponents, and it's probably going to be either Sasha Banks or maybe even Becky Lynch beating Charlotte for the women's title. There's no need to bring up Bayley right now and have her get lost in the shuffle. I think WWE is still planning on pushing Sasha Banks to become the next women's champion. I do feel that she should have won it at WrestleMania. I've said this several times in the past, but she did have her issues with getting hurt, and WWE wanted to wait until SummerSlam anyway. We'll see what happens. I could see Bayley coming up sometime after SummerSlam, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. And there's also the concern that she might come onto the main roster and WWE somehow messes her up and she doesn't get over with the casual fans, and there's a similar backlash like with Roman Reigns. You have people turning against Bayley because she's too family friendly or whatever. Bayley is very likable though, and she has charisma, so she might be able to do a lot better than Roman Reigns. But time will tell, and there's definitely some concern, I think, from people in WWE. Will she be able to succeed on the main roster with her current gimmick? That's a big question mark. This one comes from the Fight Fan. Hey Aaron, do you think the NXT title would ever be defended at a main roster pay-per-view, or would you like to even see it defended there? Please answer in video. I think the problem with having the NXT title defended on a main WWE show is you really want to keep NXT as the third brand, as a developmental brand. I think WWE's trying to be careful and not making NXT too much of an equal brand to Raw and SmackDown. At the end of the day, it's still for the developmental stars. And if you make NXT an equal brand, then what's your developmental brand? I think that's why WWE's not going that far with pushing NXT. Yes, they want to run in different cities across the country, but NXT isn't running major arenas, or at least WWE is not using the full arenas. When they do go to arenas, they only use 3,000 or 4,000 seats in those buildings for shows. WWE is trying to keep NXT more of an intimate experience for people, and I would be surprised. I mean, it's always possible they could have the NXT title defended at WrestleMania, but I think they would have done it this year if they were going to do it, period. Got this one here from Joshua. What are your thoughts on the NWO Wolfpac? WWE seemed to downplay the group. I remember they were over and their theme was awesome. I think that the problem with the NWO Wolfpac was that by that time the NWO was getting really stale, and the Wolfpac did give the NWO storyline a little bit more life for a while, but once the NWO groups were merged back together, that's when it was clear the NWO angle was played out completely. And I think a lot of people look at the Wolfpac as part of the problem with WCW, that the older guys were still being pushed. Instead of using the Wolfpac to elevate guys like Conan, it was more about Kevin Nash and Sting and Lex Luger. And if the Wolfpac had elevated guys like Conan and Rey Mysterio, then maybe people would have seen the Wolfpac as a bigger deal in history, but I think a lot of people look at it as the beginning of the end for WCW, and that's why it's not referenced as often as maybe some people feel it should be. Got this one here from Marcus S. Do you think that the WWE is blatantly ignoring the audience's chants for Sasha Banks? No, I don't think so. I think that because of Sasha's injuries and the fact that WWE wants to do the title change at SummerSlam, that's why they're not putting an emphasis on Sasha Banks right now. It's definitely a problem, though, when fans are chanting for Sasha Banks when she's not around, and it definitely hurt the Charlotte feud with Natalya when you have them coming out there and the fans are chanting for Sasha. It's not really fair to either Charlotte or Natalya. Like I said, Sasha Banks had a lot of momentum at WrestleMania, and my concern is, will she be able to get that momentum back whenever she does win the women's title, if it even happens at all? I think that once she's ready to go and we get close to SummerSlam, if WWE does not pull the trigger then there's some kind of issue, because she should definitely get a chance to become the women's champion. This is what happens after 10 years of drilling the term divas into your head. I still keep saying it by accident. The women's division. And I think it would be a mistake to not let her have that opportunity to be the women's champion. This one comes from Ben Jarman. What match do you think AJ Styles will have at SummerSlam? John Cena, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor? I'd love to see AJ versus Finn Balor if Finn Balor is called up to the main roster by then, if he's going to be aligned with Anderson and Gallows. That seems to be a logical storyline, since Finn Balor has history with the Bullet Club, or the Club, whatever WWE wants to call them. It would make sense for me to have Finn Balor help Anderson and Gallows against AJ Styles. And then that leads to AJ versus Finn Balor at SummerSlam. I do not see AJ versus John Cena, since I'm guessing it's going to be... Well, now, I thought it was going to be Cena versus Reigns at SummerSlam, but that's another match WWE might hold off on if they're going to be on separate brands. So, if AJ's on the same brand as John Cena, I guess I would not rule it out. The problem with AJ and John Cena, I mentioned this before, is that it would feel too much of a repeat of past John Cena matches, whether it's John Cena versus CM Punk or John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. You know, I think the idea of John Cena versus the Internet Darling is played out. So, I mean, that's my one complaint about that match, although it's never been done. And I'm sure WWE will do it at least once, if not 4 or 5 times, like they're known to do. Seth Rollins, they already did it last year, so no need to do that one again. I think AJ and Finn Balor would be my choice, or even doing AJ versus Kevin Owens on a pay-per-view. That would be a great match as well. Got this one here from Jishnu. Hey Aaron, did Rey Mysterio really tore his bicep before his match against Edge at No Way Out 2008, and he was never slated to win? And was he ever slated to win? That was a legitimate injury, and he was not scheduled to win. It was always supposed to be Edge versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. Rey Mysterio was just the guy for Edge to feud with until WrestleMania. And yeah, it was a legitimate injury. Rey Mysterio missed WrestleMania, and he was out for a good 6 months. I believe he returned July, August 2008 from what I remember. I was there at No Way Out for that match, and it was pretty clear that he was not at 100%. I mean, they were really trying to be careful with him. I think he was already injured going into that match, and it was pretty by the numbers, just your typical match, just Edge having an opponent to build him up for WrestleMania against Undertaker. That'll do it for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding the 2016 brand split. Subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW or youtube.com/AaronRiffNoDQ. And on that note, I will see you guys next time for more NoDQ&A video.